Hello and welcome to Talking Xbox. This is a show where I do just that, I talk about Xbox. My name is Caleb, and last episode I went through the Xbox Games showcase that they had in July. I went through and talked about each and every game that they showed at this showcase, and the episode ran about 30 minutes long. This one is going to be a lot smaller in scale and hopefully a bit shorter. And as I said, I've already talked about what we saw at that showcase, so now I'm going to talk about what we didn't see. At the end of that conference, we had Matt Booty saying that we only saw 9 of the 15 first-party studios that Microsoft owns. And so I'm going to talk about those 6 studios that we didn't see and what they could potentially be working on, and are we going to see what they are working on in a future event in the rumoured August event that is supposedly coming up next month. Now, one of the biggest studios that we didn't see at the showcase was the Coalition, who of course are currently working on the Gears of War franchise. They just released Gears 5 last year. Gears Tactics came out for PC earlier this year, and they were noticeably absent at the showcase. So I'm wondering what the Coalition is working on, because I actually expected them to show up here with a console release date for Gears Tactics. Gears Tactics, if you don't know, looks to be a very XCOM-inspired game set in the Gears universe. I think it looks like a lot of fun, but I do not currently have a PC, so I'm waiting for that console release eagerly, and I wonder if that is all that the Coalition is working on. So what else might they have to show us in the future? We're currently in the 4th season, I believe, for the multiplayer versions of Gears 5, and I'm wondering if we're actually going to get any story DLC for the Gears 5 campaign. Gears 5, I actually really enjoyed the campaign this time around. I didn't really like Gears of War 4 all that much, I just didn't get very invested. In Gears 5, however, I actually found myself quite into the story, into the characters, and would like to see it continued, whether that is in a Gears of War 6, Gears 5 DLC, I'm not sure. At the moment, I think I'd have to say I'd like to see a Gears 5 DLC rather than Gears 6 at the moment, just because I think the Coalition could maybe try their hand at working on something new, a new IP. I think that Microsoft is in desperate need of just new blood at the moment, something new and fresh. At the showcase, we of course had some new games shown, Fable being announced finally, Avowed by Obsidian. We've got Everwild, Forza Motorsport, State of Decay, but a lot of those, Avowed, Everwild, and Fable, withstanding, are known quantities. We know about them, we know what kind of games they're going to be. So I feel like we need something new from Microsoft Studios, from Xbox Game Studios, and I'm wondering if the next studio is the one to do it. Back at E3 in 2018, Phil Spencer announced the creation of a brand new studio called The Initiative. We have heard next to nothing about what The Initiative is currently working on, whether it is a reboot of an old franchise, whether it is going to be an all-new IP. But we do keep hearing the phrase thrown around 4A or quadruple A when they talk to what kind of game the Initiative could be making. There was a rumor going around for a long time that the Initiative will be working on a new Perfect Dark game. I would actually really like that, but I also would really love it if the Initiative could make a brand new IP, something totally new that just fills the void that Xbox Game Studios has at the moment. If you look over at PlayStation Studios, they make some fantastic exclusives, but I do have one complaint about PlayStation Studios and their first-party exclusives, and it is that they are all sort of in the same vein. All their exclusives are very similar. The stories differ, the gameplay differs, but a lot of them are large, open-world action-adventure games. You've got The Last of Us Part 2, Uncharted 4, Horizon Zero Dawn, Death Stranding, most recently Ghost of Tsushima, Days Gone. They're all those large open-world games. And while I've played many of those games, I haven't played Death Stranding or Ghost of Tsushima yet, but while I've played all those games and really liked them, they all do feel a bit same to me, personally. And I think that it would be good if Xbox could get a game like that, a massive story, a massive world to explore, and bring that to the Xbox side of things, because I think it's something that we're sorely missing on this side of the fence, and I feel like the initiative could be the ones to do that. They've only been a studio for 2 years, they are still hiring talent every single day. I feel like we get a new story about someone that's been hired to that studio. So I still think that we are probably a ways off from seeing what the initiative is working on, but if the July showcase is anything to go by, Microsoft is not afraid of giving you the tiniest of teasers just to let you know that something is being worked on. Something like Fable that we saw, CGI teaser. We saw Forza Motorsport in engine, I guess, but still very early in development. Avowed CGI teaser just to introduce it. I feel like it is possible we could get one of those CGI teasers from the initiative, whether it's in August or sometime later in the year, whether it's this year at all, who can say. Next up we have InXile Entertainment, who have Wasteland 3 coming up pretty soon, I think. I think it's coming out in August, I want to say. I thought it came out this month, but I think I was confusing it with Grounded, the early access Obsidian game that's coming out. But they have Wasteland 3 coming out sometime soon, in August I believe. And they're another studio that I think could actually take on a larger project. They could probably... This is me speculating, of course, but I would love to see InXile do a RPG sort of in the vein of Fallout. They've already got the post-apocalyptic style down with Wasteland. I'd like to see them translate that to an open-world RPG in the vein of something like Fallout. I feel like they could do a really good job of that. We could have the RPG Fallout killer from InXile Entertainment, and we could have Avowed, the Skyrim killer from Obsidian, and I feel like that would be something really fun to see. I'm going to skip over the next one a bit quickly just because I don't have a whole lot of knowledge about them, but Mojang Studios, who of course work on Minecraft, they just released Minecraft Dungeons quite recently on Game Pass. Minecraft is something that I just never got into. It was something that never piqued my interest, and when I did play and I played with friends, I just didn't get it, so to speak. But I did set up Minecraft Dungeons for my nephew, and I watched him play for a little bit, and that game looked pretty fun, actually. It was something that made me say, hey, I actually might jump in and play this for a little bit. I haven't yet, but I might do it. So I don't know if we're going to see anything from Mojang Studios, if it's going to be just updates for Minecraft and Minecraft Dungeons, which seems like the most likely thing. I can't see them really stepping outside of that comfort zone anytime soon. We've also got World's Edge, who are in charge of working on Age of Empires 3, the definitive edition, and they're also working on Age of Empires 4, of course. And we haven't really heard anything about that since, I believe, the Game Awards. Actually, it may have been XO19. We haven't heard about from them for a long time, so I'm expecting an update of the Age of Empires games very soon. And finally, the last studio is Compulsion Games, who had We Happy Few. I believe there was a We Happy Few DLC released early this year, I want to say. This year has felt so long, however, that it could have been last year. 2020 has been a slog so far. And I do believe that Compulsion did come out and say that their next game that they're working on will not be set in the We Happy Few universe, because there was a lot of rumors about them creating a whole franchise based around that same universe, and they seem to put that to rest at the moment, where they're saying, no, our next game will not be set in that universe. And it'll be great to see a new IP from them. I'd love to see them go back and make a puzzle platformer game like Contrast. Contrast they did a number of years ago, probably over 10 years ago, but it was a really fun little puzzle platformer where you played with shadows and light. And it was one that I really enjoyed, and I'd love to see Compulsion return to that really simple puzzle platforming aesthetic. So those are the 6 studios that we didn't see at the July Games Conference, and there are a few other things I wanted to talk about because from studios that were at the conference, but games that we didn't see from them. Ninja Theory showed up and talked about Hellblade 2 Senua's Sacrifice, but they also announced earlier in the year, possibly late last year, Project Mara, a unique horror kind of experience, and I'd love to see them talk more about Project Mara. If you haven't seen the little dev diary that they did for that game, I highly recommend checking it out because it looks insane. Also, Rare was at the showcase and they showed off Everwild. But you got to remember, Rare is also working on Battletoads alongside another studio called Dlala. I'm not entirely sure on how to pronounce that. And I was convinced that we would see Battletoads at the showcase in July, and that we would also get a release date, and it would be very soon. I honestly thought that they might shadow drop Battletoads at the conference, but it didn't even show up. So I would love to get an update on Battletoads. It's been a while since we've seen it. It was teased at E3 2018, revealed at E3 2019, where it had a less than warm reception. I agree, I didn't think it looked all that good. I thought it looked too complicated, too cartoony. I thought it just needed to be simpler, a very simple, fun beat 'em up. And I hope they do take the criticism on board and retweak that game to where it needs to be. And finally, we also had Microsoft Flight Simulator is coming out later this year. That's done by Asobo Studio. That's one that I, again, expected to be at this showcase. I feel like it is just the perfect game to show off something like the Xbox Series X. And it was a little upsetting that we didn't get it at this conference, but I hope we see something from it in August. And while I'm talking about August, why am I talking about August? Well, that was because there was supposed to be an event in June, which was rumoured to be the event we just watched here in July, but they ended up postponing it. And there were rumours going around about what it was going to be, whether it was going to be just their first-party games, whether it was going to be talking about hardware. But the Xbox Series S, not the X, the long-rumoured Xbox Series S, codenamed Lockhart. I believe the X was codenamed Anaconda. But the Xbox Series X was rumoured to be unveiled at this June conference, which didn't end up happening, and then reports were saying that that has moved to August. So that's why I'm thinking that there will be another event in August. And if there is an event in August, what will we see at it? That's why I brought up these 6 studios that we didn't see at the first conference. Will they have another little mini one and show off some of what these other studios are working on? There is also a PlayStation 5 event rumoured for the beginning of August. And so you would think from a business standpoint, you would want to capitalize on your main competitor having an event around the same time. We had the Xbox conference at the end of July, so I would expect if the PS5 event is rumoured for, I believe, August 6th, maybe mid-August would be the best time for Xbox to come in, especially as we are getting closer and closer to the damn release date of these consoles. Holiday 2020 is coming up fast, and we have yet to get a hint of release dates or prices. So if they do have an August conference and they do unveil the Xbox Series S, which is basically the Xbox Series X Lite, if you want to call it that, we don't really know a whole lot about it. It might be a little bit less powerful, it might be a digital-only version, as they've already done with the Xbox One S. We honestly don't know much about it. We don't even know for sure if it exists. We've heard insiders say that they know some things, but I don't tend to trust insiders a whole lot especially after they hyped up the July showcase event to an insane degree. So it'll be interesting to see if this Series S finally makes an appearance, and if it does, what is it going to be? And it'll be great to see if we're finally going to get a price for these consoles. Are they going to come out and say, hey, the Series X, $499 US, the S, $399 US. At the same time, you've got to remember that there is Gamescom Digital at the very end of August 27th to 30th, I believe that runs. And Xbox, I believe, is confirmed to be at that event, so that makes me unsure as to whether or not we are actually going to get an Xbox event a couple of weeks before that, and then they're going to show up again at Gamescom. I'm honestly not too sure. But that's what I'm going to leave you with today. Just some questions. What do you think those 6 studios that we didn't see at the July conference, what do you think those 6 studios are working on? What do you think the Xbox Series S is going to be? How much do you think it's going to cost? Will we get an August event? I find it really fun to talk and speculate about these kind of things, and I hope you'll join me in doing that. Thank you for stopping by and listening. This has been Talking Xbox. My name is Caleb, and I'll see you next time.